Okay.
All right. I've taken up so much of your time here. Let's start off the podcast.
Yeah.
So, am I saying your name right? Jochen? Is it Jochen? Jochen?
Jochen.
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 All right.
Like the CH in Loch, in Scottish Loch.
Loch.
Jochen.
All right. Well, I
Yeah.
apologize for my terrible
No,
accent.
no problem. No problem.
You probably hear a lot of Canadian coming out of me, which hopefully is still understandable. And so,
Interestingly, it sounds like American English. Normal American English.
and my slang and my bad pronunciation and enunciation. So the idea of this is you and I are chatting for the first time ever in seeing each other, and we want to talk a little bit about Campaign Logger and about us as just an experiment for you and I and for the community, the audience out there, to see if this is a good medium for us to talk about Campaign Logger releases and features and our thinking behind Campaign Logger. Perhaps in the future we can take questions from customers and from members and field those. And so, yeah, this is number one, and we'll see how it goes for us. It's also a tech check to see if the recording feature works or if we're going to do a lot of talking and only you and I hear it. So
Okay.
we've got some questions that we prearranged just as quick intros about ourselves and to kind of guide our first conversation here. The first question that we have lined up is who we are, where we are in the world, our location, and a little bit about any gaming that we're doing lately. So you can start. What's your bio?
Just one question. Where did you read your questions from?
Oh, they were in the meeting invite as the agenda. I don't from the Google Calendar invitation, and then
Okay.
I lifted those from a Slack conversation. So I can tell you what
Okay.
those questions are in advance, or we can go through them one at a time. And if you don't have an answer, then we can just skip it. It's not a problem. But basically, it talks about our favorite Campaign Logger features and sort of.
Now I'm seeing it. You just updated the calendar. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry to
My
pull
name
the
is.
rug on you.
Yes. Okay. Okay. I'll start. Yeah, my name is Jochen Linnemann. I'm from Germany, living in Dortmund, and I'm working as a freelance software developer. And yes, my RPGs I played lately are Fate, of course. I very much like Fate, and especially what's it called? I'm
Mindjammer?
Mindjammer, yes, my Mindjammer game, and last weekend we just started a new campaign using GURPS, and this was
Excellent.
Transium Space, yes.
Yes. Yeah, we
And
talked about that.
yes, and beside that, there's also my open table game where I have about 3 to 4 tables of Pathfinder gaming in a newly discovered land.
Excellent. So your Transhuman Space GURPS campaign, what year is that set in now? Because the setting was written a long time ago. I don't know which edition of Transhuman you're using, but what year did your campaign start in?
2100.
Nice. So what's the world like in the year 2100?
Very different technologically and socially, but overall it's not too different from what we have today. There are still nation states. They are still looking for their own good, and there's no utopia, no dystopia. It's humanity with another face, doing all the things they did for the last 2,000, 3,000 years.
So lows and highs then.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Rich texture. And so have has humanity migrated beyond Pluto?
Not yet. They are planning to launch Star Swarm robots that will be carried beyond the solar system into nearby star systems, and but they didn't launch them yet. They are planning to do this.
And I bet corporations still have a large role in the world. They're the economic engine as well as a plot engine for a lot of things in I think Transhuman has a lot of cyberpunk roots. So are corporations a big feature in your campaign?
Yes, they are. But interestingly, corporations are not that important like in other. Thundering outside. I need to close the window.
Sure. So it's a storm outside.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just starting. No, corporations don't have are that important than in other science fiction settings. Nation states are still responsible for much of the daily life, at least on Earth. Beyond Earth, the situation might be very different. But yes, corporations are more flexible, working across borders. So yes, corporations play a major role in our game.
Yeah, neat. I've always wanted to run a transhuman space campaign. Just being, I think of it as like near sci-fi. So we're in our own solar system. Yeah. We don't have faster than light technology, and all of the kind of modern day challenges can still be understood and kind of forecast. It's not so far in the future that we have to invent alien things to our modern minds for the players to try to wrap their heads around. Yeah. So that's neat. Okay, I will answer that question for myself. John, with no special pronunciation, and I'm in Alberta, Canada, Edmonton, and I do data analysis, web analytics by day, and early in the mornings like now, and late at night I do role-playing tips, and I work on cool projects like Campaign Logger. I meet awesome people like you who want to work together to help the RPG community have more fun at every game. I'm working on 3 games right now, so I'm not GMing. I took a break earlier this year. There was a couple of factors. I was getting a little bit burnout, and I was getting too busy. So with Campaign Logger, which was its own growing thing, its own concern, and role-playing tips, and real life with work and other projects, the role-playing games had to be put on pause until I kind of put my house in order. But the RPGs I'm working on right now is 2 D&D 5 campaigns. One is with a group at work, and we're playtesting the Demon Plague adventure, which I've co-written with James, and I'm running the Murder Hobos, renamed Hobos of the Apocalypse, to have less murder in the campaign. They're wanting to turn a corner and be good citizens, or at least chaotic good citizens.
Okay.
And I'm now preparing a Black Hack game for a local convention in Edmonton called Intrigue Con, which takes place in October, and I want to try out, to playtest the Black Hack rules, which is simplified D&D. So it's an old school approach to D&D, so it's another clone. But the rules are not in 500 pages of books, but in 20 pages. And it's been so long since I've GM'd something that wasn't crunchy, that wasn't rules heavy. I want to try it again to remember what it's like to to be more free form. And I'm considering the possibility of using that RPG and replacing 5e if it seems that's part of my current workload, burnout issues, if that would actually help me still be able to game master with the other responsibilities that I have. So we'll see. That's me. The Black Hack game, I'm just using 5-room dungeons as the connected 5-room dungeons as the framework, and stealing ideas from a module written for D&D called Under Illifarn. No, Shipwrecked, I think it is. So the PCs are on a boat and they are marooned on an island. They crash and are on an island together, and that allows me that kind of one-shot kind of ball to keep everyone within, and hopefully
I like that.
We reach
because
the end.
we just finished reviewing Lost, the series.
Excellent.
It was great. Yes.
Invisible animals and strange mysteries and histories. That was cool. We watched that last year for the first time and finished it. Very cool. Neat ideas in there.
Yeah. All
right. So the second question. I like my lists, so I apologize for being list-minded. But number 2.
No, it's okay.
So you, what I like about your development. So you've developed Campaign Logger, and all I've done is talk about it and write about it. You've done all the labor in bringing Campaign Logger to life and making it what it is today. What I like about your development is that you think in terms of how to make the actual tool simpler and easier and more appealing and better for the user. So you have the database and the back end knowledge, and you've developed that infrastructure, but then you've also made this very appealing and simple interface, which matches our idea of simple note-taking. So you and I basically are the only voices right now in Campaign Logger, and we'll evolve that. But yeah, I really appreciate how you have the designer eye, because like I said when we were talking before, if I were to design visually Campaign Logger, it would come out looking like a spreadsheet, which no one wants. So question number 2 then is, how would you describe Campaign Logger to a game master if they haven't seen it before? Sort of what's either the elevator pitch or the short version, so they kind of wrap their head around it, because it's not like other tools in some ways.
Yes. Okay. Thank you for all your nice words. Yes. How would I describe it? I think you described it best. It's Twitter for RPG. Twitter with a note-taking twist, because everyone knows how it is to write down notes during a session. And everyone knows how it is to look them up in preparation of a session. You might remember there was something you wanted to work on, you want to bring back, but you don't remember. And then shuffling through all your notes and finding just this page where you wrote it down, or maybe the pages when you have notes from different sessions about the same topic. That's just crazy, especially for a long-running campaign. You are looking through pages of notes and you won't find what you need. So this tool will help you there, and you can always call up what you need. You can search for it, and the best thing is auto-tagging. It's like Twitter for RPG, not just the hashtag. You can have about 10 different tags, and therefore group special things into special categories and call them up as you need them. It's great.
Yeah, excellent. I would describe it the same way, obviously, as we've talked about before, but to extend that, so I thought up the idea for Campaign Logger, and then when we started working together on it, you added a whole bunch of your ideas and expertise into it. And my initial vision for it has been maintained throughout the development, which is, again, kudos to you, because quite often the vision, when it meets the engineering, doesn't always come out the other side intact due to realities, due to constraints, and due to communication issues and stuff. So when I was using Twitter, and I was late to the show with Twitter, I didn't start on that social network until I don't know when, but it was well into its lifespan. I was impressed when you could mention people, and then their Twitter feed, it would show up that, oh, well, this person is talking about me. And it impressed me that you could, so that was the @ sign, and then you could put the number sign beside a word, and that would then create, you could then, that becomes an automatic link, that number sign in your post, in your tweet, sorry. You click on that, and then up comes in Twitter a list of all the other things that have that number sign tag linked to it, even if you did not write those things. So to me, it means that when you develop a campaign or multiple campaigns, and when you develop worlds, and when you're running sessions with so much information coming at you, at least in my small mind, the body of information involved in my game is bigger than my head. And what I liked was if I can record my notes and ideas and plan my worlds, and then have that tool be my brain to bring things back into my memory when I need it, then that would help me be more agile at the game table and more confident, not just in terms of, well, I don't have to flip through pages of books anymore, which is a slowdown and irritating to me personally, but it gives me more confidence because I know I don't have to type the exact thing that I'm looking for. I just need to have a hook, a memory hook about the thing I'm looking for. And now I can search it by tag because I can look at all the @ mentions or all of the number sign lists. Or I can use the search and filter and combine queries, which I can get into when we talk about our favorite features question. So that's not an elevator pitch, but to me, it's a digital note taker with instant relationships. So then I understand how two ideas connect together at the pace that I can type. I don't have to slow down and create links and pause. And I also don't have to be responsible for holding the entire campaign knowledge base in my RAM, which at any given night is low or a little bit less low. So to me, that's what the tool represents and what we've built. So hopefully that's understandable to anyone who just listened to that ramble.
Very nice.
All right. Question number 3 is, so we actually use Campaign Logger for our own campaigns. This not only helps us test the tool so that we can find bugs, and of course our awesome community helps us find bugs that we can stomp out, and also give us feedback on the friction of usability and on functionality, on missing features or tweaks to make features more useful. But we use the Campaign Logger tool ourselves in our own campaigns. So how are you using Campaign Logger? So I'm basically a brand new Campaign Logger user, and I've got a blank page in front of me. I sort of understand what it is. I sort of don't quite understand yet what Campaign Logger is. Is it just Notepad or is it Twitter? What is it? How are you using it and describe it in a way to a new user so that they can at least have a framework of, oh, okay, here's how one GM is utilizing the tool?
Okay. For me, primarily, I'm used during sessions. I'm replacing my notebook, the physical one with pages. I write with a pencil in, and it changed my behavior at the game table because I never used a laptop or a tablet on the game table. I always banned technology at my game tables, and now I have my tablet there, and instead of penciling down my notes in a notebook, I just write them in this little entry field, just as I wrote down on my notebook. And when I used my notebook before, I had some symbols I used to point out special terms I wanted to discover when I flipped through the pages, and instead of those symbols, I'm now using the auto tagging symbols to highlight characters, groups, locations, and things like this. And I don't try to make up great text or anything like this. I don't try to avoid errors or things like this. I'm just writing down what I would write down in a notebook, and keep the system out. Let the system keep to itself, auto tagging all what I wrote into the tool. And after a session, I'm going through all my notes, editing them, putting them together in just one entry, cleaning up the tagging, and cleaning up errors. And this is also my preparation for the next session. Sometimes I'm coming along text passages I like very much, and I use them, I expand on them in a new entry. I'm marking them for preparation for the next session, and especially with the tag, also a little star and then preparation behind it. And then I have everything ready for the next session, and I can click on preparation and get a list of all the things that I discovered during preparation after work of this last session, and have them ready to start just where I left off, and be prepared for the session. And then I just write down everything that happens and that I need to remember, and that's just my cycle of work, just writing down without thinking, reworking what I wrote down between sessions, and this is also my preparation for the next session. It's just this ever-repeating cycle which eases my game play, and when I'm in mid-session, I can just click on what I need some inspiration about, or for which I need to recall some details, and the system is bringing it up, and I'm not. I need not pause for just flipping through my notebook and searching just the passage I need to inform my players how many charges are left on the magic wand of firebolt or something like this.
Excellent. Yeah, you mentioned at the beginning there that it's changed the way that you GM, and as I was reflecting and listening to you, I realized that it has also changed the way that I GM. And so whether I was headed in this direction before developing this tool with you, or whether the tool is the catalyst, I'm looking to be the kind of hands-free game master at the table. As the game master with generally 5 or 6 players, I am the biggest constraint in the game. I am the bottleneck for answering questions, for helping players understand situations, and for them figuring things out about what their character can do or getting clarification. I am the fog of war, and so unless I've revealed it, the players don't know it. So I am limiting the information. I am controlling the combat rounds and the enemies, and I am also working on being a referee and master of ceremonies and good host. So there's so much, unlike other games where each player kind of has equality there, I am the bottleneck and the constraint. So if I slow down, then the whole game slows down. The experience slows down. So I started trying to find ways to reduce my lag in games. And so there's a cognitive load when game mastering. And so that means you're under stress, you're trying to remember things, you're trying to figure things out, you're trying to be creative and analytical, tactical and strategic and imaginative, and around and around. And so when I first started using Campaign Logger, I was using it during sessions to log all of my notes so that I wouldn't forget a detail. And that was one of the original slogans for Campaign Logger, never forget a detail again. And I found that do you know that movie Speed, where they're trapped on a bus, and if the
yes,
bus...
I know.
Yes,
I know it, yeah.
The bus stops, it explodes. And so I feel that if I ever stop swimming like the shark, then the game slows down to a halt and it's a poor experience. So it's not that I'm trying to go fast, I'm just trying to not be the bottleneck. So now I use Campaign Logger as my library, so that when I need a piece of information, I have put my information into Campaign Logger in such a way before the session and after the session that it's always there at my fingertips. So if I need that wand charge count, if I need to recall the conversation and the secret that an NPC revealed 3 sessions ago, if we're trying to figure out who has what item on them when the party splits up. And so how I use it is I've gone back to a notebook and pen at the game table, and I'm quickly writing numbers and stats and things that I make up on the fly down. Again, not trying to work with sentences, but just the ideas, almost like a mind map. After the session, I then do a brain dump into Campaign Logger, and I go through what happened in the session. Also not trying to write prose, just being factual and concise, so that future John has all of this information again, and typing tags as I go, so that it's all connected. And I can do this also because one of my players, Colin, does an amazing job of logging using Google Drive during the session. So I copy and paste his notes into Campaign Logger after the session, and then add my own notes. And then I tag everything by session numbers, so that if I ever need to review exactly what happened last session or 2 sessions ago, I can do that. I can also then generate a PDF of here's the campaign to date, so that I can look for those open loops, NPCs that I've forgotten about that should come back into play because they were interesting or important to the plot. Locations that I've mentioned, and things like that. So I'm mining my own notes for ideas and for keeping the logic important, working in the campaign. So same thing as you, I believe, is a in-game reference and a second GM's brain. But I've actually moved away from trying to log while I GM, because I find I just don't stop long enough to take the time to write. And I type like this. I type with 2 fingers and maybe a thumb.
Ah, okay. Yes, that's a problem. Yeah. And I'm typing very fast, and faster than I can write with the hand. And I can think and speak while I'm typing. That's just an independent process for me.
I'm jealous. So
just training.
Yeah, so if I could do that, then I would probably be a faster writer, a better writer, for role-playing tips too. But so I don't use Campaign Logger. But I made a note here. There's one exception. I've started using Campaign Logger as to track my combat logs. So for my campaigns, I have 3 campaign logs. The first is my planning log. The second is my session log. So the planning log is what might happen. The session log is what has happened. I cannot get those facts wrong because my campaign continuity breaks. And then my third is a campaign log, where I record round by round the action that a player takes, and if there's a number associated.
Your combat log. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so if the fighter does attacks and rolls a 26 to hit and does 475 points of damage, then, I rip up his character sheet because he's obviously cheating, but I record that, and then after the session, I have an idea of the power of the party, of what they bring to a combat, and I'm learning to plan my adversaries based on actual numbers of my sessions instead of abstract formulas offered by the game systems, which are not really accurate. So another thing is we are all creatures of habit, and my players tend to do the same things with their characters over and over again. And now I don't have to remember that. I can review after the session, okay, when confronted with this situation again, I pretty much know what my players are going to do. One person is going to be aggressive with the NPC. Another person is going to use spells to gather information about the NPC. They'll detect or magic or alignment, or they'll try to read their thoughts. The rogue is going to always maneuver himself for his knowledge skills and his detection skills. So once I started logging this and I saw that they had their habits, it allowed me to plan my encounters better. And I'm doing that for both Demon Plague and Murder Hobos of the Apocalypse. And the only problem there is that, again, I don't like to stop and type in a lot of details, but I've created a template log entry with all of the player names and their character names and their typical actions.
I get.
I use the.
Now I know why you asked me of some template snippets and shortcuts for entering them into.
Yes.
Okay.
So and now what I do is I just copy. I use the copy log entry function, so it's blank. It just has the ready for data entry. It creates a copy of that, and then I just type in, I reorder them by initiative at the beginning of the combat, and then I just start either deleting what they didn't do, because there's, quite typically the barbarian attacks, and so I just leave the attack word in there, and I remove the other two, and then I type in their attack and their damage, or their spell saving throw DC and things like that. So,
Can you do a video about this?
I should. I could. The combat logs would be a good thing to walk through. That's a good idea. Thank you. Yeah. So I'm going to stop right now and record video of how I do this. Great. But most GMs, I don't think, would like that. They're not so retentive about the actual details. They're more they're more hand wavy, or they're wanting more creative freedom maybe than to understand. I mean, a web analyst. What's a web analyst going to do with his hobby? He's going to
analyze. Yes.
All right. Question number 4. We'll move the topic spotlight away from me. Here we go. What's your favorite feature of Campaign Logger, or features?
Definitely auto-logging, also auto-tagging.
And what is that? How does that work?
You are just writing a special symbol before a word or a sentence that you put into double quotes, and when you log this down into an actual entry, this a word or sentence gets automatically hyperlinked and categorized together with all other words or sentences using the same symbol, just like the hashtag in Twitter or the @ tag in Twitter, where you address a person.
Yeah, nice. No more spelling mistakes. And
yes.
If you do, so before a session, I will often, not always, but often, write down the names of all the NPCs that I think will appear in that session from my planning log. So then I've seeded Logger ahead of time. So then the few times when I do reference or use the tool during the session, I just start typing the first couple of letters of their name, and then this weirdly spelled NPC name just automatically completes. I hit enter, and it's done. My note is done. So yeah, my favorite feature is also the auto tagging as well. And like Facebook, where you can @mention people and bring people into conversations, you @mention or you star mention or you # mention the details of your campaign to bring them all into your current note, the current context. I guessed that you would say the auto tagging. So as a backup, my favorite feature is auto tagging, but my second favorite feature is the search bar, which you've built. I didn't have a search filter as part of my original requirements document and part of my vision. And now Campaign Logger is our joint vision of this, part of our what we haven't really talked about much with Campaign Logger members and role-playing tips readers about our Agile GMing framework, PXE or PIXE, which
Pixie,
is
yes.
prepare, execute, and evaluate, so that you're just more on top of your game. You're creating better things for your game, but you're doing it in less time. And Campaign Logger is sort of a foundation of that ability. So the search bar that you've created, I'll take a step back. When I used Evernote for the first time, I thought it was terrible software, and I deleted it. I used it for 10 minutes. The second time I used Evernote, so months passed, I came across more people saying it was great, whatnot. The second time I used Evernote, I hated it and I deleted it. The third time I used Evernote, I was able to put it on my iPad. I hated it and I deleted it. So I just didn't understand the philosophy of it, because I used for a long time MyInfo by Mylinux, and it's a hierarchical piece of software. You have documents in a tree, and documents have subdocuments. So you know the parent and the child, and it's there visually, and the child can have its own children, and you can go infinitely deep, and so you can collapse it and expand it. And so if I think of there's a country, well, a country is belonging to a world, and if there's a species or a monster or a race in a world, well, that doesn't belong to a country, that belongs to the world. So now I have world, and I have kingdoms, and I have races in kind of the hierarchy of my mind. And Evernote does not work with hierarchies like that. So, long story short, after a co-worker showed me how he used Evernote, and he used notebooks and tags in a matrix-like way, I installed it, and so the fourth time I fell in love with Evernote, and I use it to this day. I use it as my primary note-taking tool for like meetings at work and for other things, except for D&D or for role-playing games. Now, as a DM, I use Campaign Logger, and Evernote is sort of my long-form note and images and videos notes backup. But so Evernote, I had to change my mentality from hierarchy and linearity to the cloud, and all of your information is there. All you need to do is query that information, and the information is there at your fingertips in Evernote. And therefore, the key to understanding Evernote and getting the most value from it is learning how to use searches, which you can search tags by saying in tag. You can search notebooks by saying in notebook. You can say has attachment, has an image. So once you start multiplying your search facets, you can then become very skilled at bringing back the exact notes and information that you want. And so I think I have 10,000 notes in Evernote, and I can bring back usually old notes, long time ago written, just because I've taken the time to understand the search feature. So in Campaign Logger, I find that the search feature is the same way. So in the search bar, in that little bar, I can add tags. So I can add an NPC name. So @Johnn. So now campaign logger instantly brings back, because it's a real-time search results. You don't have to hit enter every time. It just is a live result set. It brings back all the notes with Johnn in it. I keep typing. I type in session number 13, and now I have all the notes that have Johnn from session 13. And I can also add non-tag items in that search. So I can say maybe the word gold. I'm not able to remember the note ID and the very specific thing. So my brain has different memories of different notes. So I just remember, oh, it's got something to do with gold. It's got Johnn in it. It was from last session, and I mentioned gold in it. And now it brings back that 1 or 2 log entries that are exactly, and now I can work with them. And you can also subtract terms. So if I say I want all the entries with Johnn, but that do not include Jochen, that because I know that reference, that note did not include you, and I can further reduce it. So that my second favorite feature is just taking the time to master using the search bar to find what I want fast. Because once I don't know what my note count is in Demon Plague or in my Hobos of the Apocalypse. Is it over 1,000? But I have so many notes now that just bringing up a tag listing, like show me all the locations, gives me a list that's too long for me to just bring the exact note that I want like that. So search bar is my favorite feature.
Yeah.
What else would a web analyst say? So question number 5. What new features have we released in 2017 so far that you like the most, or that you feel has resonated the best with the community, with other users? They've found it valuable.
I think these are 2 features. There are 2 features I like the most. The first is formatting of tables, because it's time taking. I know, but sometimes it's just too cool to have a table which relates things together, like the XP I issued to different players, and how much gold they took out of the last dungeon, and things like this, or a list of NPCs they encountered, and how their relation is to these NPCs. Yes, and the second feature I like most is custom generators, now available for everyone.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I thought I have custom generators down as well, and I thought you would say custom generators, so I have a backup favorite feature. But custom generators, you have created a GitHub area for Campaign Logger so that people can upload their own generators that they've created to share with other game masters. And while we're trying to be mindful of the usability of GitHub, it's got a bit of a learning curve, and we're trying to be mindful of things like using copyrighted information in generators, so that as a company we're not infringing upon anyone's trademarks and copyrights. It's a fantastic and easy, I feel, to use service to just download generators. So if you are not a generator builder, you can still go to the generator library folder and just click, and your file is downloaded. So whether it's the names of metals or NPC names or other things, and then you just import that in, or add it into Campaign Logger through your preferences, and that to me is an easy service to use. Being not a coder myself and doing pull requests and doing reviews, I have not touched that yet, but it'll be something that I'll learn in the future. So the custom generators allow you to make your own campaign generators, any purpose, any source material, and if it's legal, then you can also use our sharing service to share with your fellow Campaign Logger users, and also take advantage of what those other folks have shared for you. And my number 2 is not just tables, but the markup. So now we have formatting, basic formatting for hyperlinks, so HTTP, HTTPS, and we have bold and italics. And the tables are fantastic. So one of the tags, so Campaign Logger has whatever 10 tags, and you can use them for any purpose that you want. And I use one of the tags for house rules and rules clarifications. And so quite often when I make rules, they come in the form of a table. So for example, price lists for equipment, or property, random like rolling tables for the weather, or things like that. And so I use the table formatting now to make the on-screen viewing of that very readable and fast. I just roll a dice, and I have my clear columns. Spreadsheet guy again. I have clear columns so I can easily cross-reference it. And I know that one bit of feedback we received from one customer was that the table's markup was tough to use, was a bit arduous to use. And I respect that feedback. For me, having used different like Markdown and other ways to create tables, your scheme I found to be the easiest I've come across, because I just type in 2 pipes, the 2 bar characters above the backslash on the backslash key, and I have a cell. So all I need to remember is pipe, and then my words, and I've created a table. And if I want 3 cells, then it's just pipe words, pipe words, pipe words. I've got my table. There's it's very simple. I don't have to fool around with header rows and formatting and declaring table TRs and TDs and other markup mechanisms. So I find this particular table implementation super fast. And of course, you can put your tags in the cells as you type. So you have, it's just like dimensions of data to me. So a table can have a list of NPCs in it, and I can put dice roll beside it. But then all of those are tagged. So when I get a roll, I click on the NPC, and up comes all the log entries pertaining to that NPC. So within just a roll and a click, I have this complete library of information of a game element. And that all started from just a simple table layout. And then we have bold, and we have italics, and the linking. So visually appealing log entries. Small feature, but it made a huge difference in my enjoyability of reading it.
Sure, I like it too. Yes,
good.
It's great.
All right, so this was an experiment. We'll put it up on the in the internet. We'll share it with Campaign Logger members and with patrons, and we'll get feedback on whether we should do this again, or if no, you guys have done enough. We've had enough of you.
No more German accent, please.
Go back to text, please. So actually, can I show, you screen shared with me earlier some notes. Can I share that log quickly just to give people who might not have any experience with Campaign Logger a quick visual of the software?
Yes, sure.
Okay, it's safe for public. I think if I click on it, and yeah, so
should I export it for you?
Sure.
Okay.
Great.
I'll send it to you.
All right. And so in that interface, you had made some notes, and you were actually using it for meeting notes. And I find that I was using it for the same reason. I have a campaign log that's just my own ideas that's not related to D&D. And though I mostly use Evernote for that because we don't yet have an iOS version of Campaign Logger, and I've got so much established stuff in Evernote, but it draws me to it. Anyway, so how we work, you made a point there of talking about that we're using agile development methods, and so that has an implication for users and for customers on what they can expect from us in terms of our output. Did you want to speak to that at all?
Maybe in another podcast.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you've got an example of a table there, and so your table markup, in the background, all you've got is just those two pipe characters separating each cell, but the logger has automatically colored it, and it just allows for easier eye tracking, especially for long entries, large tables.
Yes.
And below that, you've got some asterisked tagged items so that you can automatically link to deeper information. So if you haven't seen Campaign Logger before, I'm actually not trying to turn this into a sales call, so I will stop talking. But this is what it looks like, and I apologize for making everyone wait till the very end to see the tool. So, okay, back to what I was originally saying. If people want more, I'm thinking you and I will debrief after this to see if we enjoyed this interaction and if it was a good use of our time, and maybe in the future we could take on questions. And you and I are thinking of using this mode to talk about new features and maybe demo them using screen sharing so that we communicate better with people about what we release every 2 weeks in our sprint environment. Sometimes we release things that are invisible, that are affecting just databases in the back end, and so they might make the system faster or are better to use, but users won't be that much interested. They just kind of expect that as table stakes, and we can't demo that. But when we have demoable, visual enabled features, then we could use this mode to share that after release and speed up our kind of news and tutorials and demonstration value to users. So, any last words? Any parting shots?
Happy logging.
Awesome. All right, happy logging. Thanks, Jochen.
Okay. Bye-bye.